So when I got here at Stanford, the first extracurricular activity that I really looked into was the free clinics, volunteering at the free clinics, because what appealed to me most about those was the sort of demographic that you work with, people that are, low income, people that don't have insurance. But then I went to one of their meetings and found out that you can only volunteer for, I think it was 2 hours a week, and you can only sign up for one clinic at a time. And for me, that it just isn't enough as a clinical opportunity, because I feel that the sort of immersion that Scope offers, this complete 9-hour shift, basically the shift that a physician works in the ER, is more realistic. I felt that if I only did 2-hour shifts at a time, I wouldn't be able to fully appreciate the occupation of being a physician fully, because without that complete 9-hour experience, you don't feel tired, you don't feel worn out, you don't get to know the doctors at a point where they're at the end of their shift and they've been standing up for 8 hours, and since you're in that 9-hour shift, you get to see them at the end of their shifts, and they're still working just as hard as they were at the beginning. And for me, that's a very important dynamic to be able to notice in a clinical experience, because when you're there, you're not just learning about the medicine, but you're also there to learn about medicine as a job, as a system, as how doctors are part of an administration, how they make everything as efficient as they can, and how they work together with other people. And so yeah, I chose Scope simply because of the longer time commitment.
Anyway, I witnessed an encounter where there was a patient who was a frequent flyer, who just called frequent flyer, and that he or she came into the ED and was always there wanting pain meds because this patient was in pain. And there were a number of the ER staff who responded negatively and were like, "Oh, you're," like, basically had in their minds, but they didn't explicitly say this. They were thinking, "Oh, you're an abuser. You're just working the system. You just want drugs. Blah blah blah." And they were being rude to this person. It was terrible. And after the shifts was over, I actually had adopted that viewpoint because I saw, like, well, these are professionals. This is how they think. They must be right. And then after the shift, I asked Dr. Montefusco about this. And I think my wording was something along the lines of, well, given that we have this problem of people seeking drugs, is there something wrong with the system? What can we do to improve it? And then the first thing he said was, I think the best thing you can do is get the term drug seeking out of your vocabulary, because it demeans these people. And to be honest, if these people had a better deal, they wouldn't be in the ER. This is a really, really expensive and time-consuming song and dance just to get some relief from their pain. And since they're trying to get relief from their pain, they're almost, like you and me. They just want relief and they just want to feel good. Then they also want to talk about how one time he had some incident. I think it was like a slip disc or something like that, where he got hurt and he wanted to get a diagnosis at a different ER. And he said his thought process was, well, I'm a doctor. I don't want to yell and scream and moan and give the other attendings a hard time. And I'm just going to be a nice patient, one that's easy to handle. And people treating him misinterpreted that as, oh, this guy's not actually in pain. And they treated him like trash. He was on the other end now, where people were suspecting that he was a drug seeker. And that really, showed for him, you can't know what's going on in somebody else's brain. And so when you try to make a decision, oh, this person has pain or this person does not have pain, you could be egregiously wrong. So yeah, I guess that's another empathy point right there.
Right. I think one of the biggest things that I've taken away from Scope is just the relationships I've formed with Scope members. There's something to be said to have a community of people who are going through the same things you're going through. the journey to medical school is such a hard journey that it's great to have support, and it's great to have people that you can share your experiences with and your passion with, and you say, yes, it's hard, yes, like, how am I ever going to get to medical school? But, you know, like, we're all trying to strive for the same things, and you can see, like, the passion behind every person's, like, you know, decision, and like their motivations to be going to medical school. And so I think, you know, just meeting all these different people, having that community and support is great. Like, I've been in Scope for so long, so I've met a lot of people, and, you know, some of the people, last year, one of my co-project team leaders, he had gotten his PhD.
Wow.
He had his Stanford PhD, and then was like, okay, you know, research is great, but I want to go to medicine. I want to go into clinical medicine. And now, you know, and so now he's at Columbia. And so it's just great. And, you know, he's just like, if you need anything, if you have any questions, like, reach out to me, let me know. And that it's just having that support, having people who are in different parts of, you know, the process of applying versus, you know, like, I'm about to take my MCAT, or, you know, I'm about to do interviews, and there's always a resource and always someone, you know, to help you out. So I really love that part about Scope.